Hi, I'm Brendan, game developer and art lecturer. In the previous video, we've covered this zebra sculpture that I've produced, and we've studied different muscle groups all the way to the bones, studying how muscle deformation is applied when you were to flex and relax your muscle. In today's video, we'll cover photo references as shown on the left here, and breaking them down into different muscle groups, right, so that we can read these references in the future and be able to apply them onto illustrations or sculptures. So without further ado, let's get started. Alright, if we take a look at this image on the left here, there are a lot of different undulating surfaces, and without prior knowledge of muscle groups, the features of different muscles, we probably wouldn't be able to locate and tell which piece of muscles we are looking at, right? They're just bulges and different indentations here and there. But with our prior knowledge of like the biceps, the triceps, deltoids, brachialis, and brachioradialis, let's try to apply that knowledge and experience onto this photo reference. Over here, I would be able to tell a deltoid has an almost a V-shaped kind of volume, right? And if you start triangulating pieces of muscles from there, you would know that the neighboring piece just right beside it would be the tricep. So in this case, it does show signs of triceps, right? Where you have the two pieces that are hugging the middle piece. Over here, there is this piece that is on the left and this piece that is on the right, and you have this indentation here which completely highlights the same kind of signature that we are looking at of a tricep, which is this portion here. And then you have this middle stretch here, right, which goes all the way to the ulna, and with the triceps constricting, that's where it allows your arm to straighten, right, as we were covering this in the previous video. If you haven't checked out that video, I've pasted it in the description, so please do drop by to look at that video first before watching this one. With this tricep and the deltoid located, we will very quickly be able to tell the neighboring muscle groups as well, where you have the brachialis and the biceps, which is just sitting very nearby. So over here, I could tell and make sense that there is maybe a piece of brachialis here, and as I was mentioning previously, the deltoid converge between the brachialis and the biceps. So I would be able to kind of make sense that the sharpest tip of the deltoid here is where it sits between or in front of the brachialis. That means the brachialis will be behind this point, right? So that means it's around this area. And then in front of it, that's where the biceps will be. So over here, this small little section here is where the biceps would be, right? And it would probably flow all the way down to where the elbow is, right? The elbow is at the back, but it's going to be where the biceps is going towards the ulna and the radial bone, the radius bone. And in between the brachialis and the triceps is where the brachioradialis would sprout out, right? So that means if the brachialis would be sitting here, likely this point here would be where the brachioradialis would be sprouting out, which is again the similar feature of a brachioradialis wrapping around the forearm and then disappearing into the other side of the cylindrical shape. So if you imagine this as a cylindrical shape, you have this piece that goes into the other end, and again in the next video when we apply this on a 2D drawing, it will make a lot more sense. We also have an extensor carpi radialis that is just neighboring to the brachioradialis, which is forming this large group of like muscle group here, but again that's something for future topics when we cover the forearms. So with all those kind of breakdown, as I was kind of trying to mimic my thought processes, this is where I've put them all down on a single page. There's a small little mistake that I've made here, which is this pink arrow should be pointing towards the blue piece, so do take note of that. But as we've mentioned it multiple times, this is the brachialis that sits between the triceps and the biceps. And this sharp tip here, that's the deltoid, as we can see here. And the deltoid has the back piece, the middle piece, and the frontal piece, if you recall, right? As we were covering on this area here. This is why you have all these different lines that is kind of pulled down towards the convergence here because there's just so much tension, right? And all these different front, middle, and back muscle tissues are pulled and pulled into tension, which is why they are forming this kind of like lines around it. If we apply this same knowledge over here into this image, this is just a lot simpler, where you could see a deltoid in this case, right? There is very little undulating surfaces compared to the first image, right? The second one is just a lot clearer in terms of read. So you have the deltoid that goes from the clavicle, right? Over here, as we can see over here, clavicle, right? And the deltoid spreads out from almost in the middle or even 2/3 part of the clavicle, which is over here, like this is the clavicle, You could see the bone here, which is this bone. And the deltoid muscle sprouts out from there and almost converging to this part here. So this is the frontal, the middle, and the back piece of the deltoid, as I've illustrated here. And again, let's triangulate the other neighboring pieces. We do know the front part of the arm is made of the biceps, right? So that sits in front here, as I was mentioning, very textbook based. This is the bicep, and over here, this is the major tricep group, right? You could also roughly see this indentation here. Likely it's due to where the two pieces is wrapping around the middle, right? So you have these two pieces wrapping around the middle tendon that goes all the way to the ulna, right? So there is very slight, if we don't mention, you likely wouldn't observe it, but because of the knowledge that we have, we are able to apply it and identify those. This part here is a little bit tricky where the brachialis is sitting, but as you can see, there is this shadow patch here, and you likely wouldn't be able to understand like why is there a shadow here, like why is there an indentation over there, wouldn't it be smooth like a cylindrical shape? But knowing that the brachialis sits here, that's where you get this indentation that's happening, where all the three different muscles are almost neighboring to each other, and there is this bend that is there is almost like a reservoir in between the three different muscle groups, right, which is forming this kind of like a pocket of a sinkhole. So with that, we know the deltoid, the biceps, the triceps are sitting here. Likely the convergence would be over here, right? That's where the brachialis would be sitting in behind the convergence, right, which is as illustrated here. So with that in mind, you could also see like the brachioradialis would be sprouting out between the brachialis and the triceps, as I illustrated here, which is why you see this very faint little A shape, right? This is that A shape over here, right? This is this A shape over here as well, right? So be able to kind of identify this, you are able to tell, okay, this is the brachioradialis that is sprouting out between the brachialis and the triceps, and it comes all the way down towards the forearm, and because the wrist, as you can see, has really been pronated, right? It has really been rotated like that. That means the brachioradialis is now wrapping, if you see this as a cylindrical shape as well, it's wrapping away, wrapping around the cylindrical away from the camera, right? So it's going around to the other end, which is why you see only a portion of the brachioradialis, not all the way down towards the wrist, as I would have illustrated here. Right, so if you imagine this brachioradialis were to bend and twist to the far side of the cylindrical shape, you would only see this portion here. So applying that knowledge again, similarly, would be able to tell, okay, this is where it sprouts out from, this is how it flows down, and because the wrist is pronated, it's now going the other side of the cylindrical shape, which is why we don't see the full piece. Let's take a look at the underside of the arm. It gets a little bit complex here because I thought it would be an easy approach because you only have the triceps and the biceps neighboring to each other. You don't have the deltoid, you don't have the brachialis, you don't have the brachioradialis, kind of complicating the read. But it turns out to be more complex than I thought, and I've learned a couple of new things as well. So over here, there are two, let's go with the things that we know, right? So over here, I know this is the elbow, where you have the ulna and the radial bone that goes towards the wrist. You have the humerus bone that goes towards the shoulder, where the socket is, right, joining towards the scapula. And that means the back part, where it's facing the back portion of the model, is the tricep. So this entire piece I know is the tricep. And the frontal piece is the bicep. And over here, based on my knowledge as well, the biceps goes underneath the pectorals. The pectorals are basically the chest muscles, as you can see here. The biceps goes underneath the pectorals over here, right? Yes, there is also the deltoid, but in this case, it's barely visible. It has also been merged into this volume here because it has been raised and the whole muscle group has been kind of blended into the pectorals. But we can definitely still see them over here at the back here. This is the deltoid and a little bit of the triangle here, which is the front part of the deltoid, right? Which is this probably around here in this area here. But there is also a couple of things that I couldn't understand. I thought that this was something that didn't quite make any sense because it's either a tricep or a bicep, nothing in between, right? Because we know there is no muscle groups that are in between the two. And I later realized that this is actually the tricep. And it's due to how you have these two pieces at the back here, right? These two pieces at the back here. And over here, as I've illustrated, there's also these two pieces at the back here. They are wrapping around the middle piece, right? And this wrapping has a lot of fiber and muscle tissues that they are being pulled towards this point. It has formed a lot of different subgroups within the triceps. Just like how this piece here has a lot of different undulating surface, it is still a deltoid, right? It's not that this is a separate piece of muscle that we don't know. This is still a deltoid, but it has a different group within the deltoid, and similarly over here, the triceps has been kind of split due to the different muscle tissues that is happening when the muscle were to deform. So this, I did realize that is the tricep, and for future drawing, we do have to remind ourselves to apply that knowledge. There's a new piece of muscle that I've learned. It has been there ever since we are human beings, but it's a new muscle that I've learned that sits around the underside of the arm, but very close towards the chest. It's called the Coraco Brachialis. There's an image that I found here. It's the connection sits between the scapula, which is this piece of bone here. Like there is a scapular bone, right, that goes here, and this goes all the way down to almost like a middle or halfway point of the humerus bone. Now we've studied like real photo references, I would like to kind of study a 3D model in different directions so that we can see how they wrap in 3D, and also apply them to, you know, like this zebra sculpture that I've produced, right? And we can make sense of it. Over here we have the deltoid, as you can see here. Like it looks almost something like that, right? Where you have the deltoid over here, and again the convergence happens in front of the brachialis and behind the biceps. So here, over here, the convergence happens between the brachialis and the biceps. You have the triceps at the back. You have the very iconic indentation of the three pieces kind of sitting together. Over here, that's where it is, right? The kind of two pieces wrapping around the middle. That's where you get this, and you get this very smooth piece of muscle that goes all the way towards the ulna, right? There is this piece, right? It goes towards the ulna, and as the triceps were to contract, it would rotate the forearm backwards, right, into the relaxed position. So all the knowledge that we've learned before are very much applicable. Over here, as we are able to understand, the triceps and the biceps in between would be the brachialis, and it will likely sit behind the convergence here, right? So the brachialis would be likely here, and that's where you could see this very faint A shape. That's where the Brachioradialis were to be sprouting out from, right? So over here, that's where it starts off and goes out over here, as I mentioned, and wraps around the other side of the cylindrical, which is why it goes a bit missing, like, and then it tapers off till you can't see it anymore. But you could definitely see that Brachioradialis in this picture here, where it comes out from here and flows down towards and join this part of the wrist, right? Over here, as you can see, it goes away from the camera, kind of continued here down towards the wrist, right? Same for here, like you could see this and goes away from the camera as the camera was looking from here, from the left. It goes away from the camera towards the right, and then it kind of touches the wrist. So yeah, that's the pronating part, right, as I was describing in the previous video. Take a quick look at how they are illustrated, and if you are very interested to have these references in a PDF form, do join my Discord channel, which again I'll be pasting it in the description as well, and I'll be distributing these materials in my Discord channel. So do subscribe and stay tuned for more, and I'll see you in the next video where we're applying this knowledge onto 2D drawings. Alright, I'll see you there. Bye!